All right, welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. I'm your host, Rich Prado, owner of Play in School. Today we're heading out to the Denver, Colorado area to talk with Mike Koons from Gameday Baseball. Mike, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show today.
You got it. You got it. I know we got to go way back in the archives to talk to the guy who I believe first introduced me to Gameday, and that's Coach Keith Wall. I'm assuming you know Keith. I probably should have asked you that before we hit record, but Keith is out there in the Denver area, and we had him on the show July 7th of 2019. If anybody wants to get to know Keith, that's an old one. He's from Complete Game Ministries. The reason I just jumped to conclusions and assume that you guys are friendly with Mike is Gameday is a faith-based baseball organization. So I'm looking forward to learning more about you personally and about Gameday. Why don't I stop rambling and allow you to introduce yourself? I know you're from Colorado, but you've been around the western states a little bit. So tell us about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the general manager at Gameday Baseball. We're located in Parker, Colorado. I'm actually from Castle Rock, Colorado, so about 15 minutes south of our Parker location. Grew up here, went to high school at Douglas County High School here in Castle Rock, Colorado, and then played collegiately at the University of Arizona my freshman year, and then I transferred to San Diego State University and played my sophomore and junior years at San Diego State. Was fortunate enough to play for Hall of Famer Tony Gwynn at San Diego State, and then played with a number of quality guys along the way between those two universities, multiple big leaguers, guys that are still playing in the big leagues today. So I was fortunate enough to be around a ton of talent. And then luckily was able to get into professional baseball at the Houston Astros in 2007. Played parts of about eight or nine seasons of minor league and independent baseball between the Astros, and then when I got released from Houston, I was fortunate enough to play independent ball in a bunch of really fun locations between St. Paul, Minnesota, Orange County, California, Victoria, British Columbia. Played on Maui, Hawaii for 2 seasons. Was able to play in Australia, so baseball kind of took me all over the globe, and was able to pursue that for a number of years before finding a great opportunity and an upstart in Gameday, and have been here since really the early years and kind of inaugural season of Gameday. And we're now 11 years in and have grown into one of the biggest baseball academies here in the state of Colorado. We operate youth and high school teams. I coach a collegiate summer baseball team in the summer, and then Gameday also runs about 40 tournaments a year between the youth and the high school age brackets. So we're really a full-on academy that does a bunch of different things. But we're always growing and always learning. And this past year, we were able to expand into a second location up in northern Denver. So that's kind of our next adventure is growing our business across the state a little bit. So I hope that gives you a little bit of a background on me.
Yeah, we're gonna dig into some of that, but before we do, I want to make sure I point people to the website is road2gameday.com, and the Twitter is the same thing, road to Gameday with the number 2. I tell you what, if I'm running the travel team and I'm looking for a good place to play a weekend tournament next summer, I'm probably gonna check you guys out. Take the team to Denver for the weekend. It's so funny as you were describing some of these stops along your way. I was like, oh, that's a pretty area. Oh, Orange County, that's a nice place to live. Oh, wait, Maui. Oh, that's really nice. Oh, Victoria, BC. Oh, that's really nice. Oh, Melbourne, Australia. Oh, that's really nice. You have lived and played baseball in some of the coolest places in the world. Do you have, and you live in, and you currently live in one of the coolest places in the world. Do you have, this is like asking if you have a favorite child. Do you have a favorite stop along the way? Because, I mean, from San Diego to Melbourne with all those other stops in between.
Yeah, they were all unique experiences. I would tell you from an actual place to live, Maui's hard to beat. That's one that's near and dear. My wife and I were engaged and also married in Maui, so we find that's kind of our getaway spot. But I really enjoyed the time in Victoria. I really enjoyed the time in Melbourne, Australia. Just culturally get the chance to see a different part of the world, and then quite honestly, from a baseball operations standpoint and just experience, St. Paul, Minnesota, the St. Paul Saints do it right. So that was a really fun place to play for the season I was up there. So they're all very unique, but I do, find myself kind of pinch myself every once in a while. The places I was able to play throughout my minor league career were definitely not second rate. They're all first class. So it was an enjoyable ride for sure.
And to go back a little bit before your pro experience, you obviously, you pitched at a high level coming out of high school. I'm trying to think, you were coming out of high school in like 04, 05. So travel baseball wasn't quite what it is today, right? It was inching in that direction. Were you a high school only kind of guy, or was there maybe a statewide Colorado travel ball thing that you sort of hooked on with?
I actually played my spring seasons. I played at Douglas County High School, and then in the summer and the fall, I played with a group of guys around the state for the legend Mark Johnson, who coached at Cherry Creek High School here in Colorado. It was actually his last season. He announced earlier this week, but Mark's been around for 52 seasons at Cherry Creek High School, and along the way has really built quite a substantial dynasty in high school baseball. He's a legend out here. I was fortunate enough to get to play for him during the summer and the fall, but really some of the guys that I'm closest with to this day came off of those high school summer teams, and that experience was one of the ones I'll cherish for a long time. So yeah, travel baseball was not a thing when I was coming up through high school. It was still Connie Mack and Legion baseball were still predominant in the area, and you fast forward 10 years from the time I left to the time I got back into the state of Colorado and really was ramping up with Gameday. Connie Mack and Legion baseball are really not there anymore, and now everything is tournament showcase driven. Travel ball baseball is where it's at, and it's grown exponentially even over the last 5 years compared to where it was when I left back in 2004. So yeah, totally different scene back then.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, I'm a little older than you, but I can remember, the American Legion ruled the roost around here, but then all of a sudden there was like one team, and then there was two, and now you look at it, it's a completely different animal. One thing I'm curious about, when you made that transition from Arizona to San Diego, did you have to sit a year, or were you able to go without sitting?
I was able to go without sitting because I actually left during Christmas break of my sophomore year. So I played as a true freshman at Arizona. I went back the fall of my freshman year, and then when we left for Christmas break is when I decided to make the move to San Diego State, and I was able, because I was going out of conference, I was able to play right away. So I played that spring season of my sophomore year at San Diego State.
Yeah, like if you just turned on college baseball today and you're, watching the free agency, which is the transfer portal, you would think that was like a normal, regular thing forever. But there was a time back in the day, not too long ago, where you couldn't just get traded team to team to team to team, and every single year you got a different logo. Yeah. There was a moment in time where you had to sit basically. So good for
exactly.
You didn't waste any time. And then, all right, so we have to talk about Tony Gwynn. I mean, best hitter in baseball, arguably in the history of baseball. What was that like?
Yeah, best human being in baseball was the way I like to put it. Tony was unique because you could have a conversation with Tony and not realize you're talking to a guy with his plaque in Cooperstown. Unfortunately, my junior year was Tony's Hall of Fame induction year, so I got to go through an entire season with him getting his praise and his recognition, and it was he was unique because his family was our baseball team. And, you know, I was a Tony fan growing up, but I wasn't a San Diego kid, obviously. But most of the guys that played on my collegiate team were Southern California through and through. And so when we got a chance to go in 2009 through a season in which, you know, we couldn't make it through an airport without Tony getting mobbed. It was him and Cal Ripken Jr. went in the Hall of Fame that year. So two of the best that have ever done it. And, you know, celebrities coming up and wanting to get their pictures with him to just normal folks wanting the chance to say hi. And, you know, Tony would give everybody the time of day. It didn't matter if they were a celebrity or just a random fan. His two rules were, if they wanted an autograph, it was, you know, please and thank you, pretty straightforward, and he would talk your head off. So I have a great story. We played Air Force my junior year, and so San Diego State. We traveled out here. My family's from about 30 minutes north of the Air Force Academy, and we got snowed out of a game on a Saturday. So I convinced Tony to get the team bus and head up to actually a family friend. During the summers, I used to work on a ranch with a retired couple that had some older horses, and just they needed ranch hands. So my brothers and I would work for this older couple, and so when we got snowed out, I convinced Tony to take the bus up to Castle Rock, get out to the ranch, and have a little barbecue. And so we took the bus up. We got everybody on the property. We were having a great time, and looking around, I'm like, I haven't seen my mom or Tony for a while. I'm like, wonder where they're at. So I went up into the main house, and Tony had been talking to my mom for about an hour and a half about baseball, sports, just life in general. To this day, we still joke. My mom's very sports minded. She played 3 sports at Bloomsburg University in Pennsylvania, so she can hold her own in a sports conversation. But till the day he passed, every time I'd see T, he would ask about her and how's Mama Koons, is she recruiting for me in Colorado, and I look back, I'm like, man, to have the ability to just sit there and have a conversation with a Hall of Famer, and just like it was, you know, just like it was nothing. That's the type of guy Tony was. So he's I would consider him a mentor. I consider him, you know, I was super fortunate to be in his presence, but really, you know, being a team captain and a guy that got to talk to him quite a bit. His office was always open. He never didn't have the time of day for you. So, you know, he was special through and through.
Did he ever talk to you about how he came to be at San Diego University, like San Diego State University? Like that's you know, it's not every big leaguer that retires dream to go you know, riding around on a bus on a Tuesday
right.
with a bunch of 19 and 20-year-olds.
Yep. He you know, it's funny. Fun fact with Tony, he's actually still the career assist leader on the basketball team at San Diego State. So Tony was a basketball player and a baseball player. He was extremely gifted, obviously, in his own right. He's from San Diego. He live in Poway, or his wife and him have a home in Poway, you know, south of San Diego State. But he's a San Diego guy, and I think when he retired, you know, he always wanted to give back, but he wanted to be a coach and an instructor and a mentor to guys that he could make a difference with. And I think very similar to what we're seeing here in Boulder with Coach Prime. He was able to make an impact on a college athlete where he might have not been able to do that at the pro level. And, you know, he could have very easily got into professional baseball when he retired. But I think being able to make an impact on a 18 to 21-year-old was really his true passion, and being able to teach them not only about baseball, but about life. And, you know, just probably not as easy to do that at the professional level when money's involved and prospects are involved. But when you get your hand on 25 guys that are all pulling in the same direction and all supporting the university that he held near and dear to his heart, I think it was just a perfect blend of coaching, instructing, mentorship, and being involved in the game. So it really, he's special. I don't know if there's going to be too many people that are going to be able to look back and say they not only played 20 plus, you know, big league seasons in their hometown, but played collegiately there, you know, raised their family there, and then was able to impact hundreds of ball players along the way as well. So it was really special.
And you were a pitcher, correct? And I believe that's
Correct.
You're a right-handed pitcher. How did his hitting mind have an impact on your day-to-day approach to pitching?
I think along the way he kind of put it in perspective that pitchers tend to give hitters too much credit. The hitting's really freaking hard, and
Yeah, it's so true.
Hearing that from a guy that did it at a Hall of Fame level, it made attacking hitters for me a lot easier. And I think my freshman year at Arizona, it was a fan. I would say Arizona was probably the best place I could ever been as a freshman. I played with numerous big leaguers. I played with guys. I played in a program that was a perennial top 5 team. We lost in a regional, probably should have been in Omaha, but they were in Omaha the year before. So I played with a bunch of guys that played baseball at a high level for a program that was expected to win a national championship. So I learned that side of the game as a freshman, but inevitably, as a freshman, the game sped up on me. The game was moving really fast. I went to play in the Cape Cod League my freshman summer. The game started to slow down a little bit, but really it wasn't until I got to San Diego State and I got to learn from a different coach and somebody that really kind of understood the game at a even higher level that I was able to slow the game down. So my own development, I think, came a long way because I was around a guy that had already been there, done that at the highest level he possibly could, and was able to put it into kind of human terms of, hey, go after hitters because it's really freaking hard to hit. And I'm telling you that from a guy that's got his plaque in Cooperstown. So I think that perspective and just his calming approach. I mean, he never got too high strung. He never saw the lows. He never saw the highs. And Tony he had a gift for kind of keeping a consistent way about him all the time. And whether it was after practice or, on a Tuesday in the middle of the day and I just want to go talk to him, he kind of put it in perspective that when you're in college, you tend to kind of make things a lot bigger than they really are. And he brought it back down to earth and let you understand that at the end of the day, it's a game. You can prepare as much as you want to, but at the end of the day, it's a game. Go compete, leave it on the field, and then go back to work the next day. So that kind of professional perspective really helped myself. And we saw the teammates that he impacted along the way. I played with the #1 overall World Series MVP, Steven Strasburg. His development was changed inevitably because he played at San Diego State, and I don't think he'd be the guy he was or the career he had he not played for a professional in Tony. So he impacted a lot of guys in the same way.
Yeah, we call this podcast is Travel Ball Talk. Maybe we'll get to talk about travel ball, but it's not every day we get, chat with somebody who played for Tony Gwynn. So, so be it. You brought up another big name in sports who's right up the road from you, Deion Sanders, prime time. Obviously, he's put Colorado on the map in football. I actually have no idea what their record is at this point. It doesn't matter. It's kind of irrelevant. He has put them on the map. But he was quoted the other day as saying that hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do. Which kind of reinforces what Coach Gwynn was telling you, and I think many hitters out there would probably agree. Which begs the question: Colorado, the Buffaloes have no baseball. What's the plan there?
Yeah.
What's the plan? If they call you, will you step up to serve the Buffaloes?
Gladly. I'd love to have an interview for that position. Just to have the ability to have another Division I option for Colorado kids would be huge because I feel like, inevitably Colorado loses a lot of its top talent. We have some of the best Division II baseball in the country here in Colorado Mesa University on the Western Slope, Metro University, University of Colorado Springs, Colorado State University Pueblo. We've got some unbelievable Division II baseball in the state as well as junior college baseball. But inevitably, the top talent from the state tends to leave because their options are limited to either the Air Force Academy, which I'm a huge Air Force Academy fan, proponent. I love everything about the academy and the service members, but it takes a very special athlete to be able to have the opportunity to go play for Air Force. So that's, one end of the spectrum. And then you've got University of Northern Colorado, which they're a Division I program in their own right. But if we're being honest, it's a program that's kind of lacked the luster over the years and hasn't really attracted the Colorado top talent. And, for better or worse, we need another option. And Boulder, whether it's the most amazing facility or not, it's Boulder, Colorado. It's a beautiful place to live. It's an unbelievable education if you're able to go graduate from the University of Colorado. So I think that option would be fantastic for the right athletes here in Colorado. I think you'd be able to keep a lot more talent in state. And a lot of guys would probably be very interested in playing for the Buffaloes. So we'll see if Dion can pull some strings. He's done an unbelievable job so far in Boulder, just getting just putting that university back on the map. They're not going to be a powerhouse, win every game right away, but from where they were and where they are today, he's done a fantastic job. And I think if he's got anything to do with it, maybe we'll see a CU baseball team here in the next couple of years come back on the map.
Now, I mean, I'm not the biggest college football guy, but it's not like the Buffaloes haven't had success in the past. Were they a national champion? Did they have a Heisman winner? Maybe was that 2000, 2001, somewhere in there? I mean, they were very good.
Back in the Cordell Stewart days, they had some guys come through there and CU. I remember growing up in the 90s and early 2000s. My dad was a big college football fan, and CU was prominent back then. And I would tell you, it's probably been about a decade before they've been in that conversation. And there's a lot of things that have gone into that, but ultimately they haven't been relevant. And to see, and it's not because they don't have the resources. It's not because no one would want to come live in Boulder, Colorado, and go to school there, but ultimately they just haven't had the success that they've needed to sustain the spotlight. And so Dion's brought that back tenfold. I mean, it helps that, quite honestly, we're a football town through and through. I mean, it's a Broncos city, and when the Broncos aren't playing well, which they quite honestly, they got a big win against the Chiefs yesterday, but they haven't been relevant for a couple of years as well. So when you have an exciting football team to watch and a storyline, Colorado folks are getting behind CU football, and it's all because of the hype that Dion's brought. But you know what? He's very similar in Tony in the fact that he's a coach that players have to respect because they know the resume and they know the background. They know that he's walked the walk, so he's kind of talked the talk, so to speak. So he shows that he cares about his guys, and I think that goes a long way from getting guys that compete at a high level for you.
Again, I'm a very passive fan at best. I'm pulled them up. They're sitting 4-4, but if I'm not mistaken, the loss against USC, they were up huge at halftime. That could have easily gone their way. They lost last week by 3, and so they could very easily be sitting 6-2. They didn't win they won one game last year or something like that, or two maybe.
Yeah. I think about one or two games last year, and that's been the case, and it was bad. It wasn't anything that to be excited about. So he's really turned it around in our favor.
Does he have the bandwidth? I feel like he has the energy, but does he have the space? Could you imagine the announcement? We're bringing baseball back, and not only are we bringing baseball back, but Prime Time's going to coach the team. Could he just helicopter in and coach the team? Let his assistants run the team, and him just show up for game days, or maybe not even game days, just like a Friday night, just pop in. I don't see him coaching baseball.
I don't see why not.
I don't see him coaching baseball.
Coach baseball.
I see him throwing his weight around and his money around, the money that he has brought to the school through everything he's done, and going out and hiring a good coaching staff and bringing a good a team back. I mean, to not have a team at this point in time is pretty sad. To be honest with you, gosh, that's a lot of non-travel ball talk that we've done so far today. But I don't care. I do want, while I have you, and I don't want to lose this opportunity. I want to hear about Game Day. I want to hear, how did you end up there? Because I don't think you were the original founder. I think you came in after the fact. So how did you come to first get involved with Game Day?
It was I don't know, by luck, by chance, whatever you want to call it. There's I'd mentioned my mom is kind of a sports gal in her own right. She runs a local sporting goods shop. She has for probably 10, 12 years at this point. So the local sporting goods shop in Castle Rock, they do letter jackets, the team uniforms, just actively involved in the community at all levels. But she goes to a coffee shop. She's been going to the same coffee shop for the better part of a decade. And so you get the locals that come into the coffee shop every morning, her friends, the town gossip, yada, yada. One of the gentlemen that frequents that coffee shop, Mark Favaro, is actually the owner of Gameday. And they've been friends for a long time. And Mark, I think, knew that I had been playing winter ball in Australia and was coming back home. And my mom had mentioned that, I might be looking for some part-time work as do minor leaguers in the off season. We're always, looking to get some type of revenue to continue to sustain the lifestyle. So, every off season I would come back to Colorado. I'd work as a seasonal for the town of Castle Rock. I'd do lessons on the side. And, he had mentioned when I got back home to come, have a conversation. Maybe there was some involvement I could help out with Gameday, which had recently built a facility in Parker and was kind of getting off the ground. So I said, "Oh, great! I'll set up a conversation." So not long after I had returned from winter ball that year, I went and met with Mark, and it just so happened that I had walked in after he had a meeting and more or less moved on from the entire previous staff at Gameday. So he was looking for somebody to kind of take over a program, and it was funny. We had before this phone call we had talked about Jason Hirsch. I had kind of thrown my buddy Jason Hirsch's name in the pot because quite honestly I wasn't ready to stop playing. I was planning on going back for another season to play with the St. Paul Saints. I was interested in kind of a part-time off-season role, but as luck have it, I was looking at a facility. I was with one of my best buddies at the time, and when we walked out of that facility, my intention was to call Jason Hirsch and kind of give him the 411, but my good buddy at the time said, "You know what? It's probably a good time for you to interview for this position. Not every day you're going to get a chance to get into the real world and be in baseball." So I kind of took his advice, and long story short, a couple interviews later, that's kind of my starting point with Gameday. So kind of came together through my mom, inevitably, and then her relationship with Mark as a business owner, and that kind of got the ball rolling.
That's incredible. I love that story for so many reasons. Yeah. I'm constantly talking about networking. Who do you know that who knows? Who do you know that knows somebody that knows somebody? And sometimes that's your mom. It's so cool.
Absolutely.
Now, tell me a little bit. I've been on the website. You go to the website. One of the first things you see is, I was on the website. Impacting. Where was the quote? I'm butchering the quote already. Impact lives for Christ through baseball. So I'm glad I read that because I was going to quote it incorrectly. Impact lives for Christ through baseball. Can you talk about how the faith based, the Christian values are sort of put into action each day? How does that come through in a real world standpoint? Because I know a lot of teams put stuff on their website, but you don't ever see it in day to day. So
for sure,
how are we seeing this really come out in the real world?
For sure. So I think our three pillars that we kind of build everything on is faith, character, and excellence. And it gives us a level of accountability when we run our program. We're a team-oriented program. Everything we do, it stems from our foundation of our youth baseball program. So our youth teams will and always will be the first foundation which we build from and we started with. So our youth baseball program, we start in January, we go through July. We actually come alongside our dad coach baseball teams and help them through practices and help teach the players for the first 10 weeks of the season. So we kind of have a ramp-up period in January, February, March, where we've got upwards of 10 to 15 paid instructors in the building running practice, coming alongside those dad coaches, coming alongside our players and teaching them. And one of the coaches that's involved in our program is our lead hitting coach. He's also our game day chaplain. His name's Rick Eisenberg. Rick played at the University of Oklahoma, played in 2 College World Series, was an outfielder at OU, but he's also a pastor at a local church. And Game Day was able to put him through seminary in that process. So we really we put we don't just say it. We've got an actual pastor who's a hitting coach in our building, and Rick does a fantastic job with both leading the devotionals. So when we start our practice, we start it with a daily devotional, and that's Rick kind of tying baseball in the Bible and layman's terms in the Word together, and giving our kids a quick taste of what is bigger than the game, which is our faith aspect of our program. So our practice start with a daily devotional led by Rick. He's gonna dive into the Bible a little bit. He's gonna tie that back into some type of baseball, whether that's adversity or teamwork, working hard, all the things that we feel like we should be teaching youth athletes. And so that's a big part of our program. All of our teams they have to do some type of community outreach. So all of our teams have to go out in the community at least once during the season, whether that be working at a local food pantry or doing a shoe drive. We've partnered with the Tim Tebow Foundation. They do a Night to Shine, which is a special needs prom, which a lot of our teams get involved with. So it's just getting out in the community and letting these young athletes understand that baseball's great, but there's so much more to that. And so that's kind of how we incorporate our faith-based part of our program. We also have FGA, which Rick started years ago, which is Fellowship of Gameday Athletes. It's optional. It's not something that our kids have to participate in, but we like to say ultimately if they want to get more involved in their own faith and their own journey, then they can kind of get more linked up with Rick and do things outside of the program that are offered. And so Rick we'll have wiffle ball nights, we'll get some pizzas, we'll play some wiffle ball, and we'll also have, more or less a Bible study at the same time. So it's a part of our program that for the folks that want to get more in tune with their journey, then they can come alongside us and Rick can lead them through that. Then also we don't really mention a whole lot, but as we know, life can be difficult, and there's oftentimes families are going through things that we might not see up front. And Rick's been a great resource to families through loss of loved ones, tough times that come inevitably through life. Rick's come alongside a lot of those families, and we've been able to kind of just provide another outlet of somebody that can just tell them, hey, we're walking through this with you, and if there's anything you need along the way, let us know if we can help. So that would be kind of how we put our faith pillar back into the program, so to speak.
I tell you what, that last piece is probably the part that is not really thought about when some young guy's spinning up his first team or thinking about opening up a facility. The reality is this stuff it's all personal, and you get to know these people, and those people become your family, and it's real life, and real life happens. And, and all of a sudden you get to celebrate the birthdays, you get to celebrate the new babies, but you also have to be there for the hard stuff too. For sure. Because it is real life out there for everybody, even the baseball teams. That's pretty cool. I like the FGA. That's a little bit of a spin on the FCA, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. You've got your Fellowship of Gameday Athletes. I like that. Do you find is that mostly your older guys who are doing that stuff, or do you have some of the younger guys getting involved with that too?
I would say predominantly that's our 9 through 14-year-olds, but to take it a step further, it's fun to see Rick kind of impact youth players that might not want to digest as much of the faith part of it early on, but then come high school, they decide they want to go on that journey, and they reach back out. And we've seen that over the years. Our high school players that may have came through our youth program may not have been as involved in FGA. High school happens, adversity happens, and all of a sudden they want to pursue that at a higher level, and they reach back out, or they get further into that journey with Rick come alongside them. So, we've seen a lot of the youth players kind of move into an even tighter journey with their faith as they get to high school. And so, yeah, we see it across the entire spectrum, 9 to 18. I mean, we've got 9 and 10-year-old little prayer warriors out there that they're the first ones to raise their hand when we do a round the mound prayer down practice. And then we've got our high school guys that inevitably they get to those teenage years and things come up in their life that they don't know how to deal with, and we're able to be an outlet for them along the way when that happens as well.
All right. Well, we probably lost a bunch of people because you mentioned this is obviously super controversial, right? I'm talking. Obviously, I'm not talking about the faith-based part. I'm talking about the dad coaching part. You lost half the listeners, so I want to dig more into that so that we lose the other half. I played for my dad. He was a pretty awesome coach. I turned out okay.
Yep.
I mean, I wasn't didn't play in the big leagues, but played okay. He got me to a point where he could hand me off to really good coaches, and it's sort of a lightning rod. You think religion's a lightning rod? Bring up the topic of dad coaches at Thanksgiving and see how that goes at the Thanksgiving table.
Absolutely.
You're gonna have an all-out brawl. You're probably gonna have mashed potatoes thrown across the table. How do y'all set it up so that you can steer these guys towards success? And talk to me about some of the pros and cons of having the dads in the basically in the building, if you will.
Absolutely. So I think first and foremost, they're what's going to drive the engine of travel baseball teams. I think would it be great to have a world in which we have former college and pro athletes coaching travel baseball teams with no kids on the team? Absolutely. And every once in a while that happens, and we've got that in our own program where we've got paid coaches coaching our youth baseball teams. But inevitably, if you get into travel baseball, you understand the one, financial commitment, and two, the time commitment involved with doing it. And to get a coach that doesn't have a son on a baseball team to go to that level of commitment is very rare. So I think we realized that along the way that, look, dad coaches are in need. We need guys to coach our baseball teams. Now, how can we set them up for success? We can bring our experts in the field, so to speak, our paid instructors, our guys that have played at a high level, and we can come alongside these dad coaches and equip them to be successful if we teach them while we're teaching the players. And so, the first 10 weeks of our program, we call them our game day led practices. Our teams are in twice a week. That's their practice schedule for the entire season. The first practice for the first 10 weeks, game day actually strips the entire practice out, and we implement our paid coaches throughout that practice. So we've got our fielding coaches, we've got our hitting coaches and pitching coaches and strength coaches and sports performance coaches. And our goal is to run those practices and get our dad coaches involved in understanding the verbiage and the way we're teaching the players, so that in the second practice of the week, when they have to run a practice on their own, not only are they equipped with more drills than they might have had before, but they also understand how they should be teaching it because they learn from the instructors during the first practice of the week themselves. So our goal is to teach the teams by teaching from the top down. We want to teach our coaches. We also want to teach our players. But if we don't have our coaches understanding what we're teaching, they're not going to be able to reemphasize the message. And so that first part of the year, that's our spring training. Really, it's our ability to implement our throwing programs, our stretch and warm-up programs, our ability to teach how to take leads and to base run and to hit and to field and approach ground balls, all those things to not only the players, but more importantly, our dad coaches. And once they learn it, then the ownership from them as a coach goes back to, are you willing to teach it? And so inevitably, the coaches that are successful in this game are going to have their ears open and their hands open and willing to accept, the knowledge and ask questions along the way and truly understand what they're learning so that they can go back and teach that to the players. And so that's our approach. Not saying that's everybody's approach, but that's our ability to kind of mitigate maybe some of the arguments that dad coaches don't know everything and they don't know what they're doing and all the things you hear, the negatives of dad coaches. We look at it and say, well, we need dad coaches because we wouldn't be able to have teams if we didn't. But if we know that we're going to have a dad coach and he might not have as much knowledge as some of the other guys in the building, how can we get him up to speed? We need to teach him. We need to come alongside him and teach him how to coach a youth baseball team. And so that's our approach, teach them so that they can teach the kids. And ultimately the message is getting from the top to the bottom and fully transparent.
That is awesome stuff. I hope there's one person listening right now who's going to basically steal the blueprint that you just laid out. I mean, it's so good. It's the quickest way to expanding your coaching staff for free at no cost.
Absolutely.
You're gonna have a guy
no
who's not. I think one of the first guys I talked to on this podcast that was doing a similar model was Scott Jones, and he talked about the importance of having the dads there. It's what a cool thing. Yeah, what a cool thing. Yeah, somebody's listening right now who's going to steal this. I hope they steal this. They steal the blueprint, they implement it, and it's almost like, here's where my head was going. It's almost like you have like your roving hitting instructor who's going to be the hitting instructor for the first 10 weeks for all of these teams. How many teams is it, by the way? What's the average?
We run 20 youth baseball teams a year. So 20 teams from the 9 to 14-year-old level will be with us in the spring.
Okay, so you got your roving guy he's a salary guy, he's going to be on staff, and he's going to be, and maybe it's a few of them, that hitting guy is going to show up at that practice for 10 weeks. He's going to not only be coaching the players, but he's also coaching up the coaches. I love it. I think it's an awesome model.
Exactly.
And I hope other people implement this as well. Listen, I've had you on the phone. We're 40 minutes into this, and I think you and I spoke for like 40 minutes before that. So I want to be mindful of the time we have. There's always a handful of questions I send ahead of time that I try to hit a couple of. I tried to skip this first one the other day, and I got pulled back into it because the coach definitely wanted to share his thoughts. So I'm not going to skip this, but this one can be as quick or as short as you want. But is there a book or a movie or website, some kind of resource that you find yourself sharing with the people around you, whether it's the players, other coaches, or parents?
Yeah, absolutely. The one that comes to mind, and maybe it's because I was a pitcher, and maybe because it affected my career the most, is Heads Up Baseball by Ken Ravizza, the late Ken Ravizza. He was big into the sports psych part of the game. I was fortunate enough to work with Ken Ravizza's grad assistant during my freshman summer in the Cape Cod Baseball League, where the game had gotten crazy fast on me. I trusted my abilities, but at the same time, I was questioning whether or not I was in the right spot, if I had the ability to play the game at that level. And it wasn't until I had about an 8-week course of Ken Ravizza's baseball knowledge to where I was able to truthfully learn how to slow the game down. And from that point forward, I really feel like it impacted my career for the better because I was able to control the controllables. I was able to breathe and slow the game down. I was able to visualize. And over the years, that's become more and more prominent in every level of baseball. But you see the guys that are implementing at the big league level, whether it be the hitters, barrel staring when they step out of the box and they stare at their barrel and they breathe and they slow the game down. It's always impressive to me to see a guy be able to kind of have a slow heartbeat when there's 80,000 people on their feet. And it all stems from, can you control the mental side of baseball? So for me, Heads Up Baseball is a must read for really any level of baseball player, but I think as you get older, it becomes that much more important, and that would be my go-to.
Yeah, that's a good one. Definitely been mentioned before on the pod. I'm going to skip ahead. This is a question that almost gives us opportunities to go down many different types of rabbit holes. What is one change you think could be made to travel baseball that would have the biggest positive impact?
I can only speak from a Colorado perspective, but I think it's probably nationwide as well. But I think with the implementation of the way the game's gone and showcases and tournament travel baseball, I think inevitably the thing that's been tough to see is the product's kind of gotten dispersed. And I say that because when we talked about high school baseball and what it was in 2004, like I had mentioned, some of the best relationships I had with guys from other high schools that all played on this one team. And I think inevitably the way the game's gone now, there's so many programs and there's so many opportunities out there that you start to see these players that are, for lack of better terms, they're journeyman 13 and 14-year-olds. They've played on 5 different travel ball teams. Every season they're looking for something different. And, I don't know if there's a way to consolidate that or just have a different mindset that, hey, find a program that you feel like is right by you. Find the coaches that you feel like are right by you. But rather than chasing the trophies, chasing the success of the team, chasing the titles of AA, AAA majors, find a place that you can spend some time and quality time in a youth baseball career playing with your buddies, and building relationships that ultimately are probably going to last a lifetime. And I think the one thing that, is kind of sad to see, and this is my world, this is my business, is seeing 13 and 14-year-olds that have, like I said, played on 4 or 5 different teams by the time they either get to us or they move on and move on to high school, and they miss that true opportunity of what baseball is supposed to be, which is play with your buddies, develop relationships, find a team that you feel comfortable on, you have a role on, and stick with that, and hopefully grow with that team, and then move on to your high school, and maybe that pulls you in different directions. But I think inevitably that's probably been the one downside of travel baseball where it's gone today. There's a different team that pops up every single year. There's a different opportunity that pops up every single year, and that's from both a business standpoint, but also just availability. And you don't see kids staying with the same group of teammates for many years where it used to be back in the day. So that'd probably be my thing that I'd love to see. I don't know how you do it. I don't know if it's possible or not, but it would be nice to see that mindset change a little bit.
Yeah, I tell you, that's a tough one to solve. A lot of times somebody will answer that question with, with a good idea, and I'll just turn it around and say, okay, go do it. Because it's things that you can do. Like it's things you can implement the next day. This one's a little bit different. Yeah, I don't have a solution for you, but it almost speaks to culture, the entire culture. Look, we got within sports at the high level of Division I baseball. Now we've got the transfer portal, and guys are still trading teams just like they did in travel ball. Exactly. 5 years, and then you look at like my parents' generation. My dad was with the same firm for forever, literally forever. He he retired from them and then took like a retirement job with somebody else for like a little while, but that's unheard of in today's job market, right? You look at our generation, and it's people are, changing jobs every couple years, if not more. And it's just like what you just described is in the culture in so many different facets. So it might be a tough one to solve, man. Might be a tough one to solve.
It is.
Well, listen, I definitely want to make an effort to come out, see your place in person. Colorado is definitely one of my second homes. Love getting out there, so I'm gonna make an effort next time I come out there to come see your fields. Sounds like 2 full-size all-turf fields. You got the indoor facility right next to it. You've got a second indoor facility up the road. So it sounds like awesome, an awesome setup. And again, guys, I can't sell the state of Colorado enough. If you're looking for a place, if you got an opening in your schedule and you're looking for something different besides the same old, maybe you take your team to Colorado for a weekend and hook up in one of the game day events. So I appreciate your time. Do you have any parting shots for any listeners who still might be hanging in there with us?
No, I appreciate it. I think knowledge is power. So, for all the parents and players out there, seek ways to learn and seek out opportunities to grow as a player, and you always be in a better position than you started. So thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And welcome anytime. We'd anybody that's in the state of Colorado and or visiting through here, get a chance to get out to Parker, come see us at Gameday.
Great way to end it. Hang on one second. I'm going to stop the recording, but don't hang up.